Thank you. April 22nd board meeting. Is there a motion for our consent items for our minutes?
I still move.
Second? Second? Oh, thank you, Laurie. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, those board minutes for March 25th. Yeah. We'll go ahead and open this for public comments. We'll limit that to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone here that would like to chat for 3 minutes? Great weather this weekend. Love to hear about it. Seeing that there is none, we'll go ahead and close the meeting and we'll move on to our business item. 3.1, adoption of a resolution 4428 recognizing the National Driver of the Year 2024 Junior Vigil. And we just want to recognize Junior. Is he here?
We only went to go check on, we thought he was gonna be here, so we just went to call him and see if we can get in here.
Well, we will circle back.
Yeah.
And if that's okay with everybody in here, because that will be fun. National winner, that's just really huge. I think that's a big bragging right for Woodward. We'll move on to 3.2, the 2024 first quarter financial report. And Paul is going to entertain us with some numbers.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good to be here, and I appreciate the spring day too. So I'm a hot weather person, and I love it. So gets me excited. As far as the financial report goes, I don't know if you ever heard some of these things ad nauseum, but I like to say it when I think we have new people. We try to keep the format similar, the first 3 pages. And then also we try to provide some context. And so that's why sometimes we'll show 3 or 4 years of data, because I like seeing context. Me, seeing 1 year doesn't mean much. If I can see other years, or I can see the year versus the budget, or that type of thing, it really has value. And so that's kind of the format we're in here. It hasn't changed a lot. We've added a couple things through the years, and we're always willing to add things if someone so desires. But we'll start off, this section is the revenues. And our total revenues increased 71,000 from 2020 to 2024. This is for the first quarter, and so it's for the first 3 months of 2024. It was, the increase was primarily due to residential waste collection fees, 41,000. Non-residential waste collection fees of 19,000. Increased green curbside fees of 25,000, and increased interest income of 19,000. One area that there was a decrease was the gain on investments decreased 31,000. But when you look at that, really 71,000 were pretty similar to last year, right in the same ballpark, about what we expected. So, as far as the miscellaneous revenues, there's really 2 major components to make up that. Sometimes we get questions, and that's glass and the revenues associated with the glass program, and then also late fees are in there. So, any questions on revenues? Okay, we'll move on. This next section is our personnel expenses. Total personnel expenses for 2024 increased 181,000, which was about 8.3% from 2023, primarily due to increased wages and salaries expense of 132,000. And that increase, really, there's a couple of components to that. We have increased our headcount approximately 2 to 3. It varies because it's always changing, but it's gone up. So you always measure that, and then sometimes you get into halves when you look at it, you're like, well, that's not happening. But our headcount has gone up a couple positions, and we've been able to fill positions, I think, a little better. I think Hazel has helped with that, and I think the market's changing a little. And so I think we've been able to fill positions better, which is good for us. And then we also had the 4% COLA that was effective in January, and then a 2% merit this year, for this year. And so that was really the reason for the wages and salaries expense. The health insurance expense also increased 58,000. So one thing I like to look at when we look at things like this is, and remember, our services are not, and our demand, time worked is not equal throughout the year, tons collected is not equal throughout the year. But still, I think it's kind of interesting to look at this and you say we're 1 quarter of the year. And if you go down to the bottom and you see those numbers, the 4th column over, so far 20% of the budget, the personnel budget. So that's kind of where we're at, which that's what we hope to be. And we have some end-of-the-year adjustments, and then we know we're going to spend more on personnel, or expend more, I should say, coming up with the scrap program, and then also the tons increase. And so it demands more from our drivers and really. So, any questions on personnel? Okay, we're rolling on. Operating expenses, total operating expenses, we're up 614,000. That's about 17.5% in 2024 compared to 2023. The increase was primarily due to increased maintenance expense of 247,000 and increased can purchases of 338,000. Bit of good news, our vendor recycling fees decreased 120,000. And we'll talk about the vendor recycling fees and maintenance expense here in just a minute. A couple things on this, the can purchases, we show that they're up 338,000. That's really just the timing of when we got them this year, when we ordered them, when we received them, when we're paying for them. By the end of the year, that increase won't be that significant. And so that increase to me is kind of a timing increase. The maintenance expense, I'm not so sure it's a timing one. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes additionally. But going down through here, again, when just big picture, you look at this, when you go over our total operating expenses, we're 23.8% of the budget. So that's quite a bit. I mean, you know, a quarter, if you just took it without seasonality, so we'll have to watch this and kind of see where we end up. But the can purchases are in there. Like I said, that's really kind of distorted it a little. And then the other item too is we paid our building payment and reported that. And so that makes that number a little higher too. And that's for the whole year. And so when we look at these things, you know, the numbers are good, but kind of understand the timing behind them and what's going on. And so bottom line number here, when we look at our revenues less expenses, this year, 115,000 negative, last year, 610,000. Now, any questions on that so far?
Yeah. We're gonna back up just a little bit.
Okay.
The, on revenues, use of reserve funds, pull a fund balance, so you have 3.38 million. How does that impact the overall status of the fund balance? And the second piece of that was, is that overtime, is that, are we cycling up or cycling down with overtime to fill the extra position? I don't know if we're.
Yeah, we'll stay on that revenue first. The fund balance, really, we need to put that number in there. When we budget, our revenues have to equal our expenses. And so that, the use of the fund reserve is really kind of a plug number to get us so that we balance out. Now, will we use that much? Will we end up using fund reserves that much? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but that's possible, or where we use our fund reserves. We have
Early in the revenue collection cycle.
yeah.
So our revenue collection hasn't met.
And we still have quite a bit of time here, and so I'm not real concerned. And then the other side of it too is fund reserve is fairly significant. We build up that fund reserve. It's not cash, but it's kind of an accounting of gains that we've had throughout the years, and we have a pretty significant fund reserve. And so that doesn't concern me too much. I do think it's important to understand it. And then one thing I look at is I like to take that out and see where we are as far as revenues go, because that is kind of a budgeting number. If you take that out and look, revenue-wise, we're about at 24% for the year. And so that's kind of my thoughts on the fund reserves. Hopefully that answers the question on that. As far as overtime goes, I think, you know, your point's very valid, and we'll see how that plays out this year. I would expect our overtime to come down some when we fill up these positions that we have. And
There were holidays in there as well, so when there are holidays, there is that pay, and sometimes overtime will go, as part of that, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I was just saying, because we've had the discussion because of vacant
Right.
position,
Yes,
that there was a lot of overtime used in order to
yes.
fill the void. So, and now that we
Yeah.
Your vacancy rate is down,
Correct.
so that was, is overtime still be on up, or is it dropping? So that was kind of the question.
Okay.
So if we have full staff, as far as revenue or expenses, it's going to go down. It's not overly significant at this point, but on an annualized basis, it's kind of just a capture of where we are with the hiring and maintaining employees, attrition rate. If all those are down, then some of those numbers drop. It was just
That's a great catch, Keith.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Thank you.
really good point.
that's about point
We
eight.
were hoping for that, huh? A little bit lower overtime rate.
We should see the wages go up and overtime go down, right? Because we were having carryover from the wages
Yeah.
to cover
Well, and
overtime.
that's what you hope, so I think, though, Keith mentioned one thing, attrition, you still may have a lot of turnover within that same time period, and then the other question, you dig down deeper, and it's, who are we hiring, are they up to speed, are these new employees, we have a couple that we're bringing along to the apprentice program, which I think's been really good, but they may not be as fast and as efficient as the other drivers, which some of us don't want out of this, we prefer they take their time and really be safe, and so there's other factors too, once you delve down a little deeper, but I think we can get those, and I think overall, though, we would hope that overtime would increase this year, as long as we stay staff work.
thank you.
Okay, we can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. And so this is fuel expense. This is for the first quarter, and so it's quarter year over year. You can see that increase this past year, from 2023 to 2024, we're up about 6% for the first quarter. And then over to the right of the graph, this is what we were asked to provide within the last year. And that's just the cost per gallon for diesel and CNG. And so you can see there in 2021, where we were at, 2022 looks crazy as far as diesel goes, and it was. And then they're starting to come back, where they're closer, it's really because diesel's come down and CNG has increased. And so CNG, as of 3/31, the average price we had paid was $2.41 a gallon. And diesel was $3.08 through the first quarter. That's not going to last. You notice diesel when you drive by the gas station. So that will be on its way back up. But as far as that cost per gallon, it's the end of the year for 21, 22, and 23, and then just the end of the first quarter as of 31. So kind of gives us a picture of that. Our fleet, I think we use about, at the end of the year, annualized about 92%, 91% CNG. So we're really heavily weighted towards.
I was just gonna say for our new members, maybe you could explain how many trucks are CNG and how many are diesel,
And so as far as
percentage wise.
yeah, the trucks, all our side load trucks right now are CNG, and then the front loaders are CNG, and we have 2 rear loaders that are still diesel.
Yeah.
And then where we use diesel is the hook lift trucks, and then like the F-350s that we use in the trailer program and some of those areas. But we've really gotten to where the majority of it is CNG. Now, we'll talk about here in a minute, we did order some diesel trucks, and we'll talk about those in capital expenditures, but we really, and I think that's changed over the years. I mean, Pam, as far as that usage of CNG, where it used to be diesel almost 100%, and then it's gone to CNG. And that's really benefited us. There's some environmental benefits. I think now with diesel, that's always a question to me, and all the changes they've made to diesel engines. But I do think cost-wise too, it's helped us out, the last few years, especially you get there in 2022. And that year was one year where I saved, I think, significant dollars by CNG. But it's interesting, CNG over time increased. What's driving that? Is that demand on CNG? I'm not sure, but it's really trending up there. Not volatilely, but in 2021, CNG was $1.74 a gallon. Now it's $2. Diesel was $3.08 at the end of the quarter.
I think there was just a little bit of discussion for those that were new in the past year. Sherry brought up, is it really environmentally, safer to have CNG. It looks like we're kind of converging on, pollutants with CNG and diesel, and then we can turn around and sell a diesel truck more at the end of its life here versus the CNG, so,
And purchase prices.
and
also
purchase
less.
price is less on a diesel.
Lots of math.
Lots of math. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, here comes the fun one, maintenance expense. This is for the first quarter, and so it's important to remember that this is for 3 months. But we're up almost 30% the first quarter. And a couple things with this, looking back, I went back and looked at last year, and last year we ended the year up about 13%. But if you look at last year here, there was not any increase in the first quarter of 2022 to 2023. And so that, and I felt this and I knew it, but maintenance really picked up at the end of the year last year. And I was hoping it was an aberration, and I don't think it was. And so it's increased a lot. A couple things, I did talk with our asset manager, and he dug into this and looked, because he brought up a question in the pre-board, is there one or two large repairs that contributed this, and there really wasn't. He said he looked at numerous trucks, different ages, and it across the board increases. And so I was hoping we'd find, you know, a couple large ones we can say, hey, this contributed 80, 70,000 out of the ordinary, and we were not able to find anything like that. He said really maintenance is up across the board. For side loads, parts are up significantly. And one example we talked about was tires. They're up in the last year about 37% to get tires for the trucks. And Greg, you're probably familiar with that, but that's what we're seeing here, at 37% for tires. And so we'll see. I don't, you know, I'd like to see this over time more, but from the last part of 2023 to 2024, we have seen a significant increase here. And so,
How much of this would you estimate is increased maintenance incidents, and how much would you estimate is increased maintenance costs?
The fees that we're charged, the
Well,
rate.
no, like you said, the parts prices were up, or the tire prices were up, but, so how much is the increased cost of parts and those kind of things, how much is, we're just having more incidents than we being made?
from my opinion, I mean, Pam can this, I think it's increasing costs and parts. Because I thought, you know, we talked about our fleets getting older, and that's why part of the reason we kind of dug into this and looked on and see, was there some old trucks that really took a lion's share of this? And he said it was really pretty much across the board for the same basic services, tires, same basic things, repairs on arms, it's up. And so I don't know what your perspective is, Tammy.
I would say if you look at the general, what like Paul said, the general, what we would expect, then those costs have increased because shock rates have also gone up 8%. So yes, there is that, but we do have some aging trucks that we have shown, and that they are more costly. So we're thankful to get the new trucks in this year, and then sell the ones that are the big seniors, so to speak. We're hoping to be able to get a nice price for those out there on auction, but we'll find out. We'll find out. It's been a while since we've been able to buy a truck, and it's been a long time since we've been able to sell one. So we'll see what the market holds.
So, question, we did talk about, doing the math on that as far as like how much, because obviously we do expect to see more maintenance expenses on older trucks, but at what rate is that a kind of a break-even cost for buying a new truck and the expense of the new truck, and how much it costs maintenance? Do we have the math on that yet? Or?
Well, last time when we visited about that, it looked like 8 years was the tipping point, so to speak, that it's like we don't really want to keep them any longer than that.
Yeah.
This has been our first experience in keeping them that long.
Yeah.
And it did show that, you know, that
Proof of the point.
it's not really what we would desire to do.
Yeah. Well, especially if downtime too, to consider.
Exactly. There's those costs that it's hard to measure.
Yeah.
Plus, I think that we haven't had a really long lifespan on CNG trucks either, so it's been really difficult to really analyze how long we should or should not keep them. I think the lack of ability to get new trucks, I would guess, it doesn't really sound like it really impacted this the same amount, but this is a personal story, but I had my oil change in my truck the other day, it's my F-150, and it was $140 to have the oil change. And it certainly didn't used to cost that,
What
right?
happened
It
to
was
the
like,
2099 deal, right?
yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying that all you have to do is look at your own stuff for maintenance or your tires or those kinds of things, and it makes sense that this is gonna skyrocket. You mentioned it several times over the past, like trying to find your crystal ball, to figure out what to guess on maintenance, right? I think that's gonna be a really volatile mess for a while.
Yeah.
We were hoping it would adjust because the pandemic is over and these things should start to level out, but they don't seem to be. Inflation is driving so much more than we even think, I think.
I'm curious, are we getting the same life on our tires that we had in the past?
Good question. I would say that we are. I mean, the miles that we can get on tires, I would think, has not really changed. per se.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because, same thing, I had replaced 2 sets of tires this year, and they were only not even a year old on both cars. And, they just wore out darn fast, and when I, went in to look, and, I found several articles about how the tires are not lasting. They have in the past.
Certainly, we could look
So I
into
would,
it.
I would be curious to see if it's the same for the tires you're getting, and if it's certain companies or what, but to have to turn around and buy tires in less than a year later for 2 different vehicles and have to buy all 4 tires is ridiculous.
And we can look at miles, because I think that would be the, what's the
Yeah,
life
miles is what you
expectancy
look at,
miles.
if you look at miles,
Yeah, we'll look at,
they weren't last year. Good question.
There's also a big difference between entry-level tires, top tier,
Agreed.
and how much mileage you expect out of those different levels. And there's less of that in a commercial tire. Consumers have and want a lot more options. And I know that there's been a big driving force to keep costs down, so they have been making tires cheaper of the same kind. So if you go to the tire shop. with
The number
same
of
idea,
miles.
Yeah, you are gonna get a,
So I'm looking at mid-level, mid to high,
Yeah.
when I buy it, just, I don't want to be.
But they are altering that recipe, if you will, so that
Yeah.
you ultimately, to get the same tire you would buy 5 years ago, where, well, these were lasting 100,000 miles. You are having to pay for the top tier price to get that same tire in actual performance. So I know that that's been
Yeah.
an unfortunate change. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay, if they go up anymore, you're donating your Harley tires.
say my shop rate's $190 an hour. My oil tank was $500.
Yeah,
It's a service, they should do not have oil change.
it's interesting to talk about this, but you talk about it, and like you say, and I think all of us have felt it over the last 4 years, and we're still feeling it, even though we're told it's supposed to be getting better, it still feels like things are just, and it's like, when is this going to end? Because it just, it can't go on. I mean, just as far as the wage support and people and that type of thing, so, but like I said, tires, and we can look at that and see. My understanding is the tires on our side of the trucks are 1 to 2 years, usually. On the front loaders, I think we go a year, because they're going up the canyons, and I think we try to make sure we really have good tires on those front loaders, but we can check out, see more on it.
Yeah. That's good.
So,
All right.
okay, on to the next one. This is refuse ton, the blue is 2024, and, we have it down below, those numbers down below. If you add up the blue, it would equal the number or the total at the top. And so really not much variation there, relatively consistent from year to year. We can see for this year, the transfer station was up last year, and then it was up some this year, and we talked about that before. The transfer station, especially for the first quarter, weather comes into play, how much we use that. And so that can dictate whether that, how much that moves. As far as the cost per ton go, I think Pam mentioned this at the last board meeting, with Transjord right now, $39 a ton. The transfer station is $37 a ton, and Salt Lake landfill is $29 a ton, what we're being charged And those are all up $2 a ton from last year. And so there's an increase there too, as far as what we're coming. But really relatively consistent, not much variation here. And we expect the tons will increase coming up, this time of year, the next 6 months. Next one is recycling tons. Really not much change here either, very stable as far as those numbers. Not, much variation to address with talk. This is our vendor recycling cost per ton graph, and so on the left side is the what we paid per ton. That's an average, a weighted average of what we paid per ton to our 2 recycling vendors. And then through the year, down at the bottom each month. And so you can see starting in 2021, that's the light blue, and then 2020 was the light blue. 2021 was the green. Started off in that period, it went up to almost $40 a ton, and then we dropped down. That green line, when it goes under zero, means that we're actually getting paid at that point in time in 2021. And then you can see in 2022 that big hill that popped up, and that's kind of where we've been at. The good news is, like I said, that stayed it's not good news, it stayed high through 2023, but in 2024, we're seeing some decrease there. And that's you can see there, the average, it was 57 in January, 51 in February, and 46 in March.
What are the factors that affect this price?
Really, it's commodities markets, and there's various commodities markets. It's not just one. And so you may have plastics, you have cardboard, those types of things, where aluminum and those commodity markets are really volatile, and that affects it. And then I think, to be honest, their processing costs have gone up just like everyone else. I mean, they have labor, they run machinery, they have trucks. I think everyone feels the increased cost. But a lot of variation, I think, is really new. The significant variation is commodities markets and how they can vary based on different information. And they're tough to figure out. And then to me, it's hard here. I've dealt with commodities markets in the past, but here there's numerous commodity markets that go into this. So it's not just one. And then commodities are historically very volatile. That's just the way it goes. So you can get pretty big variations and changes. Okay, on to the next one. This is our cash balances. Information includes all cash investments, and we include all of them because they're short-term and they're accessible. And so if we needed to pull money out of these funds, we could. We have access to it, and so that's why we include it here. You can see so far this year, we've really been very similar to last year. And really, when you look at this graph, through the last 4 years, not that much change. I mean, it's graphed out and been pretty similar year to year. The high points are after our quarterly billing cycle and when we collect. And so when we bill at the end of December, 1st of January, we collect most of the cash through those next few weeks. And at about mid-February is when we cap out on how much cash we collected. And then we don't really collect that much cash until the next cycle. And so those peaks are really tied in with cash collection. One thing I think this is going to change significantly this year, and we'll talk about that. I think, it's on the next slide. And so any questions on cash before we move on to the next slide? Okay, capital expenditures. This is where I think we have, a chance to get new trucks this year, and it looks like we're going to get them. We have done some, but it will influence our cash. And so just to recap, I put the 2023 budget on here because it could influence what we need or what happens in 2024. But we ordered 12 side load trucks in 2023. We did not receive any of them. Those payments there are for, we have 2 vendors, and we pay one vendor, Peterbilt, for the chassis, the engine, and those are payments for that portion of the truck. And so we ordered 12 trucks in 2023. Did not receive any side load trucks in 2023. when I did the budget for 2024, I thought we were going to at least get a couple of those trucks in 23 that we did not get. And so that's why in 2023, I put carry forward 2 side load trucks. And then that piece that I thought would be carried forward. It ended up, we did not get any of those 12 trucks in 23. So far in 2024, we've gotten 3 trucks in. We got 2, one in February, March, then we just got a 3rd one in April. We have a 4th one that's gone from Peterbilt to the manufacturing facility in Canada to get the box on and the arms. And so we ordered those 4 trucks from those vendors, and then we ordered another 8 trucks through Sourcewell, which was a different source. Those 4 trucks we should get this year, and it looks like we're going to get the 8 trucks too so far. And so that's good news on that front, and I think it's good news for our drivers. I think it's good news maintenance-wise. I just think we need these trucks. But what happens here is I put 2 in the budget, and so now up above, this year we ordered 4 side load trucks, 4 diesel trucks. We'll see when we get those, and if we get them this year or not. If we look like we're gonna get them this year, then we may exceed the amount I budgeted. So, and that's why I'm saying 23, give a little background here. I think we're fine, and if we need to, we can always do a budget adjustment. I hope we get all of them in, and we'll take them, and if we need a budget adjustment, so be it. But that was kind of the process of why I did what I did at the point in time, and I was wrong, and I've been wrong quite a bit on when we get trucks. I'll admit that, I haven't been that.
You couldn't predict the effective truck.
I couldn't.
Give it better.
They tell us, well, it's not funny, but we met with our vendors before even, and said, well, the price is going up, okay, we come back, get approval. We're gonna still get them this year, yeah, you're gonna get them, the price is going up, okay, we do that, we still won't get the trucks, and so it's gotten so, you know, that's been really tough, but it looks like that whole chain is starting to move along and get back to normal after 3 to 4
They have the
years.
magic 8 ball.
Yeah, so.
You almost don't wanna get all 8 trucks at once, because then when you hit your 8-year mark, you're replacing a lot of trucks at once.
Yeah, well, that was backed up, and we, you know, we talked about on maintenance, we wanted to I wanted to keep 4 trucks, and Pam was okay with that, and we decided we wanted to keep 4 trucks longer term to see that age.
Yeah.
And,
Get a
you know,
better long-
and get a sample, what is it? Because we're selling 5, 6 years, we don't know what's maintenance year 7 and 8. Well, we've got more than 4, and it was kind of forced
Not
our
our
hand a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, but we'll see.
Survey.
Yeah, it was, a forced survey and a forced large sample.
That's right.
So, but as far as this goes, that's where we're at. We should get that 4th truck in, so we'll have 4 from one vendor and then 8 more. And we're anticipating getting the first of the 8 silo trucks here in the next month or so. So it's good news. Yeah, it is. Any questions on that? Okay. Well,
Your question is, we're talking inventory of trucks. I keep seeing the burn truck up in Mill Creek. It's still part of the county property. Any update on if that's gonna come back into the
Yeah, good question. So the reason we haven't moved it is about $6,000 in total, and we had to pay that to get it to where it's at. So we're waiting for the buyer. That, believe it or not, there's somebody that would like to buy it. And so once we get that secured, then we will tow it to the auction yard and they will take it away.
Thank you.
You bet. The other truck that, tipped, was sold. So we did receive a check for that as well as, our insurance payment as well.
Do they use it for parts or?
Well, it's still, the chassis is still good.
Yeah.
So for some, providers, they have the bodies available and they can just switch it out.
Cool.
Whereas we don't just set aside something and leave it.
No farmer mentality.
Yeah.
We could use that later.
Yeah.
Put that in the bone.
Put it, yeah, put it out in the field. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for asking.
and it will be interesting, Pam mentioned this, but on trucks, you know, when we get ready to sell some now, how is that going to play out, is hopefully we get a lot more on the sales side. The three that we've gotten in this year, we paid about $416,000 apiece for those, which is quite a bit higher than what we paid 2 years ago. I think it was $325 then or around there. So, but it's gonna be interesting to see what's the demand side for these trucks now, and has that increased? And we think it has.
Nobody's getting them.
Not just the demand, but the price too, because the new ones cost.
Just for your benefit, that was part of my issue with the diesel, is that there's a bigger market for diesel, because not everybody has access to CNG, and so for rural communities, those kind of things that might buy, a used truck, it's harder for them to obtain CNG, so then it's like, where's the value in resale? It doesn't balance out. Lots of math.
Yeah. Next up is our certification balances. And we can see the amount in the right column is the amount that's certified, and then the amount outstanding is, as of the end of March, what was outstanding out of that total amount. When we say certified, just so everyone knows, these are amounts that we submit. These are bills that have not been paid, customers that have not paid, and we submitted a data file to the county, I think usually September, and then it goes out with the property tax statement, and we get paid through that channel. And so it really helps us out on collections. It would be very, very difficult to do collections here, especially the amounts we're talking about. And we get paid, you can see there, a high percentage. The 16, 17, and 18 are all one individual that's gotten extensions from the county, and we're looking into that. I think it's about time to write those off, so we'll see. I kind of like to clean this up when we've asked the county, we've tried to be working with them. And my point is, once you get 6-7 years on receivables, the odds of getting it are
Pretty low.
they're pretty slim. So, but overall, this is a positive process for us that helps us out a lot. And then the last one, refunds. And for this purpose, we define refunds as funds that have actually gone back to the customers. And I just wanted to define that because we're still doing adjustments on customers' accounts, and that happens. And there numerous adjustments on customer accounts, but these are the refunds for the first quarter. Really, it was a very low number and not many transactions, lower than what we've seen before, and not a lot of transactions here. So I think the highest one was a customer overpaid $351. And so this will be higher, I think, this quarter that we're in. So, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. And just a side note, I noticed here, Paul, that you have been with Woodward now for 5 years, a little more than 5 years. So that's impressive. So thanks for being here. And interestingly enough, there's 2 gentlemen in this staff that have been here 20+ years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Yeah.
Happy to see that. Okay, 3.2, well, we did that one. Oh, yeah, adoption of resolution 442A, Junior here, you coming? Okay.
Kids to get grandkids, to bring them.
Oh, bring them.
Fine.
All right. We'll go ahead and go with 3.3, release of properties from tax sale request from the Salt Lake County Property Tax Committee. Pam?
Yes, thank you. So Paul went over the certification and that we still have some outstanding fees from 2016, all the way back in 2016. When fees are delinquent, they go up after 5 years, the property goes up for tax sale. And so the thought is that home would sell and then we would get our fees if it's sold. The Property Tax Committee reviews the cases and works with property owners, and they allow for property owners to make payments. As you can see, we still have some from 7 years ago. So what this is every year, the tax committee asks you as a board to release those properties from tax sale, and it's 5 years. As I mentioned, there's still some that are waiting. But one of the things to note is that once those payments are made, we are first on the list. So our fees get paid first, and And this is the benefit of having the lien authority as a district. Municipalities, as you know, do not have this. So as a district, we're very thankful to be able to have that. Because, you know, when Paul gets more into his reports, and what you saw there's up to $2 million that go into the property tax, to go on to their notice to be paid to us. So that's a lot of money that we can be out if we did not have that lien authority. And so I'm very thankful for the Utah Association of Special Districts. Rachel also advocates for us up there on the Hill to make sure we keep that authority. Very much worth that membership fee that we pay to doing it. So that is what this is, and right now we do not know how many properties. I won't have that information until maybe next month or June, as far as the number of them. Usually it's around, it could be anywhere between 3 and 5. I think the most we've ever had was 7 properties. So this is just a request to you as a board to allow the release of those properties up from the tax sale, because the lien still stays.
Any questions on that? If none, then I'll take a motion for approval.
Motion to release, what are proposing property tax over.
Second.
Emily, thank you, and second by Nick Sudbury. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Did we lose all our online people?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
All those in favor?
I said aye.
Okay. All right, any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you. And 2 million is a lot. That adds up really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. 3.4, requested amendments to human resource policies related to the pay structure. So Pam and Hazel, you're on.
I'll just do a little intro, if that's okay, Hazel, and then I'll let you take it over. It came to our attention that we really needed to get in policy what we've been practicing now since 2021, really, when we rolled out the first phase of, and we started with our equipment operators, paying by work experience in education. So pays were adjusted, excuse me, I should say wages were adjusted according to. And then, as you can see in the compression matrix, that the lower bigger box there, that is all of the positions that hire within that 25th percentile of the salary range. And those are mainly our CDL folks, because as you know, there's a nationwide shortage of CDL drivers and anybody that holds that license. So we wanted to make sure we were compensating those folks accordingly. And then every other position is basically above there. And we, you know, positions would enter in based on their work experience, number of years, and so forth. So it came to the attention that we needed to get this before you as a board, because we've been practicing it. You adopted the compression matrix back in 2022. So that is the purpose of this coming before you today. It is part of the pay structure within the human resource policy section of our manual, which is chapter 9. And then Hazel, are you good to take it over?
Yeah, so we did talk about it last month, when we were talking about a reclassification. And this is the same approach every time we have a new hire, or we're doing a reclassification. And it's important, as I said, it's the same approach that we use in every situation. So it helps us to be consistent and fair. There's no negotiating when there's a new hire. We look at their experience and education and their points for that. We also, so first red paragraph there is just talking about the compression management matrix. And then underneath, we are requesting to add that an employee, current employee, let me back up just a little bit, because we do offer a tuition reimbursement program. We encourage our employees to get further education, and we have several employees taking advantage of that program, which is great. And so we are adding into there that if they do finish a degree through that program, that we give them credit for that. An associate degree would be the equivalent to 2 years of credit, a bachelor's degree equivalent to 4, and a master's degree equivalent to a total of 6 years. So we would use that, and give them that credit, which would mean a bump in their pay that we would do, you know, if it was a new employee, a new hire coming in, it would be the same amount of credit that they would be getting as a new hire. Any questions on that?
How bad is our compression rate now? Do we see much of that, or?
We don't, because we, have Melissa, our wonderful compensation consultant. And I wasn't here when this happened, but it was 21, right, that every employee, filled out, an employment history, and that was all taken for that, reviewed at that time, and, compensation adjustments were made. So we're in really good shape.
Is anybody negatively impacted by that review? In other words, they got a demotion thing or?
Like I say, I wasn't here at that time, so, yeah.
No pay was taken away.
I'm curious, so that was great.
Yeah, it was a really in-depth review too. There wasn't really a way to fault aside on, not to suggest anybody would, but they did a really thorough review of exactly degrees and work experience and things like that. I think that was the experience that I saw on the board side anyway.
Yeah, you were vice chair in 21? Chair.
There was a lot of, there's been a thorough look at all this stuff from everything that I can see on our. Anyway.
Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, thank you.
I'll make one more comment, because I have to make it. I would be bothered a little bit, not bothered, I love that people are going to school and improving their education and things like that, but we're paying for them to do that, we're helping to pay for that. So if I think about then also additionally, things to pay after we've already paid for them to go to school, then I'm like, wow, we're paying and we're paying. It seemed like we gave them the benefit of the education. But when we're talking about, we also to me somebody coming in with that same level, we got them access to keep them, right? So anyway, otherwise I'd be like, oh no, but because we have to keep it consistent and because we want to keep them. So I think it's good.
Thank you. It was, you know, one of those, you know, but it doesn't, thank you. It's a lot of deliberation.
And it gets tricky.
Yeah.
It gets really tricky. There's just no black and white on these issues.
We had that same discussion internally more than once, but we, at the end of the day, we came to that conclusion. If we're going to hire someone from outside, they come in with a bachelor's degree. But someone internally has a bachelor's degree, and even if we help them, and we don't pay the same, that creates an issue. Are they getting a benefit? You bet, but I think too, the organization really benefits from folks that want to get educated.
Yes, thank you.
All right. 3.5, General Manager's Report.
Give me I'll motion that we approve the amendments to human resource policy related to case structure.
Thank you. Mick, second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that motion passed. Thank you. Pam?
Okay, so first, happy Earth Day. It's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And just so you,
We have a guest.
oh, yay! No, you're
You
good.
mind?
Not at all.
Okay.
Please.
So I'm going to take our board back to 3.1, adoption of a resolution 4428, recognizing the national, and I'm going to let you tell us about it.
So, this is Junior Vigil, and Junior has been with us since August of 2011, and, has been instrumental in, you know, safety. He also, you know, recognized, or I should say, put forward a great public presence for us, very positive. He was instrumental in recognizing Eric Hutchins of Taylorsville City going out to his, I think, was it junior high?
Yeah.
Yeah, and recognizing this young man who goes out on routes and helps Junior, making sure that he can do all the recycling routes, and then Gage, who's on the garbage side, he goes around and basically, follows you, making sure that you're understanding, you know, if there's anything that's going on, he wants to make sure you're aware of it.
For like hours.
Yeah.
And drag these off.
Yeah. One example of how Junior, puts forth the effort to make sure our community understands the wealth, the value and the wealth that we provide for our communities. And anything that you would like to add, I mean, you're just phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, sorry I was late, first of all, I got watching my screen. No, it's just an honor, you know, really humbly honored by, really do love my job. Work every day, got great leadership. Makes it.
So I was honored to get to go out to the junior high where they honored the little boy that precedes and goes after him. So awesome at the junior high, and all the kids from this boys' class got to come out and see the truck and honor this young man, and Virgil was great at getting these kids excited about the truck, and I was really touched by that, and I was even more touched that we were special.
Oh.
So we wanted to support and the organization to say that. Thank you. Good job. Oh, we did it. I got my phone. How about that? Did you find it? This is awesome. You know, if we had a bigger room, the whole board gets gathered around. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so kind. All right, Pam, Earth Day.
Yes. So, as I mentioned, today is the 50th anniversary, and I wanted to give a little bit about the purpose of Earth Day. It's an international day devoted to our planet. It draws attention to the environment and promotes conservation and sustainability. So every year on April 22nd, around 1 billion people around the world take pause and raise awareness to the climate crisis, to bring behavioral change to protect our environment. This year, the theme is planet versus plastic. So there's been a lot of discussion about plastics. In fact, last Sunday, I think it was, or Sunday before, on Sunday morning, there was a piece on plastic and how they're not recyclable, which I think we've done a lot of education to understand there are types of plastics that they cannot be recycled. Those are those thin film plastics. And so while that story touched on that, it also encompassed all plastics, which I thought was very sad and very confusing for people. And we've seen that on our social media pages, and questioning whether it's really going for recycling of what we collect in the blue can. So this is recyclable. In fact, some of these bottles are from recycled plastic, but those thin film plastics are not. You know, the hard, one-time use, the solo cup, they are not. And so that was kind of the sad thing for me, is to see that story, because it created more confusion, which basically tells me we got more work to do, and making sure that people understand that what we collect in the blue can is we are providing the education to make sure what's in there is recyclable. And then when we take it to the vendors, anything that is recyclable is processed and taken care of and sold on the commodity market, as Paul mentioned. So there you have it.
Very good.
All right. Yes, sir.
Follow up with the person that wrote that article.
This Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Oh, and follow up with that person in general?
And then have them do a follow-up story, and maybe take them and show them through the actual recycle center how the process works. I think there could be more education.
Yeah.
Follow up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. PSAs, I've talked to Renee Plant, who is our administrative manager. She's been in touch with, was it KSL or
Channel 13, this last week, yeah, where Brett Bolton offered that if there's other messages that we want to communicate, other items, so, yeah, that's a good idea, we can reach out.
PSAs, absolutely. And if I can get Jane Pauley's number, one of my heroes, and I would love to visit with her, to be honest. So, yeah, anyway, but thank you, yeah, we will do what we can on our level, absolutely. And I am fielding, questions on social media. Kind of a sad note and a positive note for McKenna, but, McKenna Suape has moved on to Republic Services.
Okay, I like her.
I know, she's phenomenal. She has some visions and career goals, and eventually wants to move to Texas. And Republic Services is big nationwide, and they have a big facility in Texas. And so that's their plan as a family, is to move there because their family of origin that's living there. So we're sad to see her go. We're recruiting very aggressively to get a successor for her, but she will be missed. Yeah, great, great. Yeah, so Sione has more work. Try to fill the gap. And, all right, so if you would go to the next page, speaking of sustainability and, some of our goals that we have, what we can do at our level is we want to work hard to divert waste away from the landfill. Right now, our diversion rate goal is 18%. In the first quarter, we exceeded that by 19% as a whole district. And just to note that green waste just rolled out the week of March 11th was the first week rolling out. And I know with the weather, the tonnages can vary. And if it's bad weather, then obviously we're not out in our yards doing a lot of work that way. Yes, ma'am.
I have a personal question about that. You can't take your green stuff to the landfill right here anymore. I mean, you can, it goes up to landfill. They don't have the green stuff anymore. Is there a place that people can take their green stuff?
A good question. I know for the bulky green, we deliver it to the Diamond Tree on 500 West. I don't know that they take residential load. And I think that's the tricky part, is that there really isn't a place for somebody to take a truckload of green, that is quote unquote. Yeah. There's really nowhere, unfortunately, for you to take it right now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because they had heaping piles all the time out there. So now that's just all going in the landfill.
Unfortunately.
So that's, yeah.
But the curbside is going for composting, I do know that. We will see, most likely, I've been in touch with Patrick Craig, who's the executive director of the solid waste for Salt Lake County, and the joint owner of the Salt Lake County landfill and transfer station. They have a composting facility out at Salt Lake Valley landfill. Everything that goes to that composting facility is being used or reused for that particular commodity of compost. The bulky green that we collect through the trailer rental does go to Diamond Tree. And that we process or pay a little bit more to process because of, but by price and proximity, I'm not mistaken, it's cost effective to take it there. Plus, it's reused for their bulky compost as well. So we will see a price increase at the Salt Lake Valley landfill for the green waste processing. Right now, it's $17 a ton. Patrick Craig has let me know that it will go up $20 per ton, most likely in July, on an annual cost increase for about $15,000. So in working with Paul, Matt, and our operations managers, we're looking at program cost accounting to see. We want to make sure that that green waste curbside program pays for itself, because we don't want that monthly fee of the $19.50 to subsidize that. It's a subscription program that needs to pay for itself. So we'll be looking at that closely. And so the other thing is we have curbside glass collection, as you may be aware of, and then also the central sites that are available for residents, or whichever makes sense for them. And then last month I went through, or excuse me, in February I went through a detailed recycling tonnage report, and we have seen an increase of cardboard in that recycling can, 12% increase, looking at 19 to 2023, and we were expecting some of that, but it does take up more space, and just way less. Okay, so, one thing to note from the fees that Paul went over, the recycling fees, right now we're averaging $52 per ton, and that's a decrease from 2023 of $21 per ton. Okay, any questions on that? We'll keep rolling. And this is the ever popular topic. And I anticipate there'll be some questions and discussions, which I very much welcome. We rolled out the seasonal container reservation program, or as we like to call it, SCRAP, just this April, with containers being delivered out in Mill Creek. And right now, we have 420 containers available for each of the 3 zones. So just over 1,200 containers that are available for Mill Creek City. It is one of our largest cities, and we look at, when I say largest, we're talking about the homes that we service. So there's over 15,000 homes in Taylorsville that we service. So just to walk through the process, if you're not that familiar, but we have postcards that go out to notify residents of when their reservation timeframe will open. And we try to give them as much notice as possible. I know there's been discussion when those reservations open, and we make it at 8 a.m. versus 12 a.m. But really, it will bog down our website system, and we're a little concerned if we have it during normal business hours. Although we do still have reservations, even though, 12 a.m., those Fridays are going to get booked within minutes.
We already have our alarm set. Wait
Yeah.
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know in the last board meeting, I was concerned because I had forgotten to wake myself up at midnight to make sure I reserved for our neighborhood, but they've been great. They did it themselves, and I'm so thankful. But at any rate, containers started being delivered on April 8th. Just a little bit of information. The week prior is when we do the SCRAP training for our drivers coming in and the ground crew. And Sione does a great job putting that training schedule together, and making sure our folks are ready to go that first day of delivery. So there's some stats there, just so you know that, the first zone, everything was booked, those 7 days that were available for each of those zones, which, as I mentioned previously, it was 1 day you had a container and it's gonna be dropped off and here you go. People had 7 days to choose from, but those were fully booked within 11 hours in zone 1. We have 256 on the waiting list, and these stats are probably already changed. This was a point of time of about a week and a half ago. So the containers available for zone 2, as I mentioned, there's, those containers were booked within 8 hours. There's 247 on the waiting list. And a wait list, basically, if we have cancellations, which we do, then Sione moves the first on the wait list over to a container. Understanding that he tries to give people as much notice as possible that they have a container coming, but there might be those times that, the night before or the day of, letting people know. So, questions at this point? It's very early in the season. This was, just for any new board members, this was the topic of January 2023, February 23, and March of 23 board meetings, and reviewing scenarios that residents had brought forward, and then a few scenarios that you as a board had. And really, what the board determined was it made the most sense to keep it as it is, and do the best we can. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got a question. I've got a resident in Cottonwood Heights who has tried to book a container for their home, but their driveway is a super steep hill, and y'all won't put a garbage bin on the street either. And so, do they have any other solutions?
So my understanding, Sione is here, board member Holton. Sione, to Tuane is here, and he is the manager of that program. Would you mind just coming up so he can hear you, if he wouldn't mind? He's gonna address that question.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the steep driveway, we still can drop it because the container don't roll or don't move after we drop it. But if it doesn't work, then we'll be having to put it in front of the house.
Okay, that sounds good. It looks like this last year they reserved one, and when someone came to deliver it, they said that their driveway was too steep and they couldn't place it in front of the house. But maybe I'll connect with them, and if there's any other issues, I'll have them reach back out again and see if we can't solve it.
Okay, it'll work.
Thank
Thanks.
you. I know Sione tries to work very hard with homeowners, and there are times that he will place it in front of the home versus in their driveway, especially if it's narrow, or in Copperton, I know they have shared driveways, so there's times that you need to put it in front of the home.
This is a quick question, we probably have answered this before, but when we have this many people like on a wait list, and the time passes and they didn't get their container, do we do any kind of follow-up message and say, here's access to this trailer rental program, just to make sure that they know that's the second option is, if you didn't get an opportunity, there is always an opportunity to rent a trailer. This is how you do it. Do we follow up with anything like that?
I don't think we do on an individual basis per se for those folks. But if we hear from them, we certainly give them those options as well as landfill voucher. And would you like us to go that direction?
I just wonder if we already have their information on the wait list, how difficult it would be just to pop something quickly out to those people that just says, here's the trailer rental information if you're unsuccessful this year. I don't know about
access to their email, I believe.
So I can kind of answer that just from a business standpoint. Yeah, it's really easy to program that out, that if they're on the wait list, they'll receive that email. And I love the idea that they get a voucher for the landfill. I guess we'd have to see how many of those use that. The more the better, the more not so good on that as well. But I do really like that idea, Sherry. And it is really easy to program that. Your web guys can do that.
The only generally we have, when we download all of the information from the website, we'll make it that.
Oh, perfect.
So we can
Yeah,
get
it's
their
super
email and say that's when we can process.
Now,
Just see if I can give feedback to them, because then that maybe, it's like, you still have an opportunity, it's not a no cost, but at least it says, here's the opportunity for a trailer, so remind them.
It's pretty much as simple as building an additional,
yeah, Greg would know.
mailing campaign in your email,
Super simple.
and you just populate a list from that particular project. And I don't even know if it would make sense to, hey, sorry, we couldn't fulfill your request. Here's a voucher, or we can give you a small discount on a trailer rental to entice them to go ahead. I don't know how much capacity we have, and if it would make sense to even offer a small discount as kind of a, hey, sorry, but we can offer you a rental cheaper between this time or something, maybe during slow times, or it might be something to look into at the very least.
I'm gonna play the devil's
Sure.
advocate here. Do we want to remind them that they missed out and now they have to pay a fee?
They know. I don't think you're reminding them,
Okay.
because if they've gone through the effort of getting on the wait list, they have all the junk sitting there and they just want it taken care of.
Yeah, and it's cheaper than having to call just a private company as a general rule spring trailer. So it's already somewhat of a discount to buy that way.
Because some people don't have the ability to use the voucher to get,
They don't have a trailer, they don't have a way to
There's a way to get it there.
well, I can at least still get a rental, especially if we potentially can entice them to take advantage of that. Worth looking into it.
Last year, we talked about, like, having a list of those people
Or
that
just
got.
the price of the voucher,
Oh,
which is,
Yeah.
I think, $10 or something like that.
So we can do that. We would need to adjust our fees.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and we're willing, we can do that, but we would need to do a public hearing,
Sure.
adjust the fees, and I'm not saying we can't. So we can make that part of the 2025 budget if you would like us to. Just bearing in mind that we still have revenues that we have to.
Sure.
And we, right now we budget so that anticipating so many people would use a voucher, right? And so I assume that we don't budget enough that every person would use a voucher.
Right, that'd be $1.3 million.
Exactly. So I don't know, that's the only thing that concerns me, because there has been so much debate into the cost of trailers. We don't want to subsidize it with everything. We're already subsidizing the scrap program, so it just becomes kind of budget. And I know it's a great idea, but just like every good idea, government wants to moderate.
Yeah. One always starts with something, right?
Yeah,
And that's a good idea. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of those vouchers, like at Taylorsville, are being refunded back to Woodward for a lot of those vouchers that go out to our city. Go ahead.
I just wondered if it wouldn't be, it just promotes our trailer rent a little bit, gives them another avenue, just reminds them that you missed out on this one at no cost this year, but there is an avenue. I don't know a lot of people really super familiar with the trailer rental program. It's like just an opportunity not to advertise, but to let them understand that there is an option if you.
Absolutely.
One of the programs we're gonna roll out is from spring to fall, we're gonna put dumpsters, we're gonna put out an RFP, get bids. We're gonna put dumpsters out once a month in different areas of Magna. And, put them out overnight, and then the next day they'll come pick them up. The next month, we'll put them somewhere else, because we're cracking down on our code enforcement. So we're decided that in order to crack down on code enforcement, maybe we as the town need to help clean up.
I like that. We do the same in here when we just finished this last week with the cleanup, and you can see the pile at it's a very big mountain of branches and things like that at the park. But I think it is a community responsibility to deal with that too. I don't believe it all falls on.
We have a lot of people out there that don't have pickups, that can't go to the dumps.
Yeah.
And, so that was actually my program. So I want to try to see if we can help clean up the town. So put out, 12 dumpsters, a month in different areas from spring to fall.
Thank
For the
you.
contractors.
Yeah. I would like to revisit how the board feels about those people that received it at year A are not eligible to receive it year B, C, or D. Maybe rotate that, and now that we're collecting more data, we can do that. And if we move that direction, we could include that in the email. And I think that might prevent some of the hostility of, they always get it.
Yeah.
So,
Or at least forcibly putting them on the wait list at the time of their sign up. Because then at least, if there's still dumpsters available, then fine, you can still have one. But if we fill up, sorry, you're on the wait list until everybody that's not had a chance to have one.
Yeah. so let you guys,
What's the rotation? You're saying if you get it one time, then you're on,
off.
just 1 year off, or like multiple years?
I think we need to take a look at the data now that we're collecting that data, and you could just do it by house address.
I think that's a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah, let's look at that.
So repeat addresses. Okay.
And that's an easy thing to sort for as well, in that database.
That's a dumb question. So how many containers and how many people versus the wait list? We have 1,000 containers and only 25% don't get on the actual list. So we have 420, but at that point, 256. So are we overbooked by 30%? Or are we?
Like the number available, is that
Yeah,
what you
so
mean?
the amount available versus the wait list, is it just the 30% extra that are trying to get in, we can't?
As far as we know, right, these are the folks that will actually go in and sign up on the wait list. Those that just say, forget it, I'm not gonna do anything, we wouldn't be able to obtain that data.
So back to Madam Chair's comment, if we had them wait every other year, we could probably get that group that were on the wait list the following year.
Yeah,
I think if that became public, people would have hope that says, hey,
gotcha.
I can keep that stashed in the corner another year and I will likely be in a good place. And then the other idea was, if you're on the wait list, maybe you get priority the following year to sign up. And it's similar to like a Grand Canyon permit where you get an estimate, you get a scale entry potential, so it's more likely as you wait longer.
Sounds like we need to contact the DNR, for hunting licenses.
No,
How do you
they're
guys
terrible.
know
I've been on
that? Water.
One way or another, the story is we're trying to help everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that, Ian.
So we do have a pretty good metric for doing like a lottery for hunting
Yeah.
licenses. So
You're
I can
not.
actually,
I disagree, I have a vehemently.
well, if you've got nothing,
Share.
if you've got nothing,
There's
then
no way.
there is a factor of random in there.
if we can definitely pull the data and see if we can get those repeat addresses, and then as far as how many of those are there percentage wise, and I like that idea that who's ever on the wait list that doesn't get one would get that priority.
So with that program, like if I was to reserve one and put it in my yard, and, everybody dump in it? I mean, because out there, I understand people will say, no, I reserve this as my dumpster.
I think both cases happen.
And then a lot of people say, no, you're not gonna dump in this dumpster because if you get hurt, then I accept it, liability.
That's true.
That's true.
So,
I mean, I think for most people, at least in our area, an individual house doesn't fill the entire dumpster
Right.
anyway. Like even if most people are filling it maybe quarter full or whatever, and so, at least in our neighborhood, everyone just reaches out and said, I've got my room, and everyone just tries to do it that way. But then you have people who are worried about liability, which is fair.
Yeah, very true. And then we're moving into holidays, May 7th.
That's it.
Sure,
Timer's
gear it
up.
up, gear it up. No, these are great suggestions, and we can come back, May or June with those, if you would. I know next month, I don't want to steal Paul's thunder with the annual financial report and our audit. Okay? Moving on to risk management and loss prevention, we as staff, meaning Paul, myself, Hazel, Tim Norris is our safety and emergency coordinator, and David Itch, our operations manager, met with our representatives at the Utah Local Government Trust a week before last to get our insurance premium. Just to note that our renewals are July 1, and workers' comp had been in April, so we are now moving to July 1 so that everything aligns as far as all of our lines of insurance will be on the same date for renewal. With workers' comp, we had anticipated an increase with that, with some of the unfortunate injuries that happen at work. Because of the timing of the renewal, moving from April to July, we actually, and then there was a couple other things that played a factor there, but we are actually experiencing a decrease coming into this year's renewal, which we're very thankful for.
Yeah.
Our EMOD did go down, which was another reason why we had a decrease in premium. With our auto, we have a 15% increase. We have had an increase of incidents. Just to note that our deductible on that is $10,000. The nice thing about these reports that we're getting now is the trust has started putting in history so that we can see how much is paid per incident on each auto accident or property incident. We can look at that and we can say, would we be able to adjust our deductibles going into next year's renewal to lower our premium? Would it be worth it? So there's some more data that we have that we can collect and look at. Those are things that are on our radar. And then just to note that the trust does cover cybersecurity, pollution, and crime at no cost to the members of the trust. Very thankful for that. The trust has a program called the Team Appreciation Recognition Program, and that's abbreviated to the TARP. And what that is that the district funds a $25 gift card for our equipment operators and people that are operating equipment as part of their, the majority of their job. If a team is accident, incident, and injury-free in a month, everyone on that team gets a $25 gift card. We also have had in place for many years, a safety certificate award for incentives. So, each equipment operator, or excuse me, I should say anybody that operates their equipment as most of their job is eligible for a safety certificate every month as well. Same thing, no injuries, no accidents. or incident causing any kind of property damage. And that starts at $35 a month, and it's about 2 or 3 months, and then it goes up and up. And so for December, for example, it's worth $80 for anybody that meets that criteria. So we do have a lot of incentives to try to help people be motivated to have attention to safety. Then also, we do get a rebate every year on our general liability. This year, we get back 5%, so $8,400. That's actually a check that comes back to us. The TARP is actually a decrease in our workers' compensation premium, if that makes sense. So coming into 2024, July 1 to June of 25, our insurance premiums overall have come down 3%, just over $12,000 decrease. Yeah, very thankful for that.
Cool.
Workers' comp was a big chunk of that. And then, yes, any questions? So Catalina started a new thing. She incentivized me to be a little more jovial on my left side. And so I got to pick this one, and I love Scooby-Doo, so very fitting.
Very good. Thank you, Pam. A lot of good information, and please feel free as board members to reach out with other questions or comments after the meeting as well. All right, any other board business? This allows our board members. Okay, we'll move on from there. Requested items for the next board meeting, Monday, May 20th. There was the 23 independent audit report, and that will be by Kyle Green, right? Which is our CPA and from Squire and Company. Pam, you'll have another general manager's report.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. And then I'm really looking forward to the apprentice program update and see how that's moving forward. I've mentioned that program with some other organizations, and they've really piqued their interest in that. So excited to see how that's moving along and how we can pass that information to other organizations. Okay, and we do have a need for a closed session today, and I will take a motion for that.
Make a motion to recess the meeting to convene a closed session to discuss personnel matters.
Second.
We also note that we will be closing the main meeting at the end of the closed session, so we don't need to come back. Yeah.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Our board member Sudbury. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I,
Okay, that motion passes.
We need to jump on the other call.
Yes.
Before we start.
So those of you that are with us online, there was an additional link sent to you for the closed session. So if you want to jump on another link, that would be appreciated.
Yeah.
And thank you for all attending.